Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
A ban on homeless encampments in certain parts of San Diego is on its way to becoming law. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Its official name is the Unsafe Camping Ordinance, and it passed last night after hours of public testimony. As KPBS reporter John Carroll tells us, the vote was close and the disagreements were deep.
I think the amendment is reasonable. It helped to fashion a compromise that could actually get action yesterday.
Flanked by Councilmember Stephen Whitburn, who proposed the ordinance, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria was firm in the face of significant opposition.
Status quo is indefensible, and what the council did under Councilmember Whitburn's leadership was take action and move forward.
The vote was 5-4. Members that opposed it had a variety of reasons for voting no.
It appears the police department is now going to have this ordinance to enforce with no additional resources at their disposal.
The new law bans encampments within 2 blocks of schools, in some parks, in canyons, along waterways, and near trolley tracks.
Our neighborhoods don't get treated the same.
Council President Pro Tem Monica Montgomery Stepp says the new ordinance does not adequately address racial inequities faced by homeless people of color.
They face apathy, discrimination, and disrespect from police. The result is a reluctance to seek services proactively as well as to engage with outreach when offered.
Councilmember Joe LaCava said he only supported the ordinance after receiving assurances about getting updates on issues like shelter availability and abatement actions. The mayor says the city is being proactive on a number of fronts, including opening safe parking lots for those living in their cars, and he says the city is moving forward as fast as possible to bring more shelter beds online. Enforcement of the ordinance is expected to begin in late July, but tonight, questions and anger remain as to whether the city is doing enough and whether it's doing the right thing. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Students are one vulnerable group sometimes forgotten in the homeless crisis. They were not even considered in the recent point-in-time count. And as KPBS education reporter MG Perez explains, San Diego's ban on homeless at camps will impact children in different ways.
How are you?
7-year-old Maximilian Guardado is excited about the last day of school. His mother, Zulema, dropped him off as usual here at Sherman Elementary.
Hey, look, Mommy, I can hide from the ball.
Max and his mom share a lot of love and learning.
We work on communication skills, and we work on, habits and, how to have, like, proper values,
At the moment, they are trying to survive without a permanent home, unhoused and only employed part-time. Zulema and her son are eating and sleeping at Father Joe's villages as much as possible. Max is one of an estimated 11,000 homeless students spread across San Diego. Those numbers come from families reporting their situation to schools that then report the data to the state. But there are no formal reports of the extremes parents go to educate and protect their children.
I tell him every day I fight for him that I am Wonder Woman. And I tell him that when things get hard, I take my sword and I bang it on the cement.
The recent Regional Task Force on Homelessness point-in-time count did not count students. And the city's approval last night of a ban on unsafe camping did not take them into account either, according to Alliance San Diego, an organization that fights for the rights of homeless families to survive wherever they can.
Closest to the place where they feel safest, which is going to be a school. And so while they're complaining about, students having to walk through homeless encampments, they're not thinking about the fact that some of these students are actually living in these encampments.
Every student who is unhoused has a different story, and their families have different opinions of what the city has now done to ban homeless encampments. For some, it is a fear of violence. 1/3 of the students here at Perkins K-8 school in Barrio Logan are homeless. That trauma is made worse by crime caused in nearby camps, where there was a murder last month, and vandalism to school property. Fernando Hernandez is the principal who supports the city's ban.
We understand our students' needs, their background, a lot better. And so our students' emotional trauma must be addressed now, not later in life.
Zulema Guardado agrees.
I know I can achieve my dreams, and I can take me and Max out of the slums.
MG Perez, KPBS News.
The flying of the LGBTQ+ pride flag has been much debated in cities across the country, including here in San Diego County. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne shows us what led to a different outcome in Carlsbad.
The city of Carlsbad has reversed their decision on flying the rainbow pride flag at City Hall every June. The decision came during Tuesday's city council meeting when the item was brought back for discussion. A debate that didn't go short of controversy.
These pride people want their flag up and displayed as much as the Nazis did. And furthermore, the Nazis had their propaganda pushed into the public schools, which these pride people are likewise doing.
So why do we need a pride flag? Before it was just to get equality. They have it. And now they are in a protected class that has more rights than any other class.
Flying the pride flag in Carlsbad tells me that you want me here, that this is a place that I can belong to. People have implied that I am a Nazi or anti-Christian and many other things already tonight, and I'm sure we'll hear more just for existing. I ask that you support us in being residents and neighbors rather than attack us.
The raising of commemorative flags was voted down in May because the city of Carlsbad didn't have a flag policy in place. Last week, members and allies of the LGBTQ+ community took it upon themselves to erect a temporary pride flag outside of City Hall. The North County LGBTQ Resource Center then rejected Carlsbad's Pride Month proclamation.
We reject the proclamation and send it back to this council with a promise of coming back when the city will be able to address our human rights with the dignity and the respect we all deserve.
Mayor Pro Tem Priya Bat Patel says the raising of the rainbow flag was approved on Tuesday as a resolution.
Instead of what you had seen previously, which required a 4-1 vote, this required a 3-2 vote. And we did have the opportunity to incorporate a few amendments to ensure that we can fly this as government speech. I know that's something that's come up quite a bit.
She says special language will be added to the resolution to protect the city's flagpoles from becoming public forums.
I would hope that we are seen as policymakers that actually do want to represent our entire community, that we do believe in inclusivity, that we're not just putting words out there, that there are actually actions behind those words. And I think that's really important to folks.
The North County LGBTQ Resource Center has offered a pride flag that will be raised below the state flag on City Hall. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
The Temecula Valley Unified School District voted to fire its superintendent after the school board's controversial book ban. Protesters argue educators are overstepping boundaries by talking about issues on gender identity. Nicole Comstock has the story.
The audience will be cleared. Dion, that's your first warning.
Screaming and hollering inside a school board meeting in Temecula after the board voted 3-1 to fire beloved superintendent Jody McClay. Educators in the audience chanted Jody's name as she waved goodbye. Her 25-year career in the district ended with a closed-door firing. This amid the conservative majority board's controversial ban on books in its social studies curriculum. All over one text mention of gay rights champion Harvey Milk.
I'm horrified that teachers are targeted for the basic work that they do to provide students a safe space to be themselves.
It is our goal as brothers, sisters, and family to guard those children, to protect them with our very lives.
Leave the porn out of kids' books!
But people protesting outside the meeting think those educators are overstepping their bounds by talking to students about issues pertaining to gender identity.
LGBTQ, transgender, gender dysphoria.
Once you read that information and you take it into yourself, it's not like if you eat a bad meal, you can throw it up. It's in your brain now. And so we need education, not indoctrination.
If we could indoctrinate them on anything, we'd probably first indoctrinate them on how to listen and pay attention and do their work.
Teacher Matt Paulson says the Harvey Milk biography parents were so opposed to wasn't even going to be purchased as part of the curriculum anyway, and that leaving these schools without texts over it just does a disservice to their students.
I think it's making something out of nothing.
The Federal Reserve is taking a time out to take stock of the overall impact of its interest rate hikes on the economy. So what happens next for your money? Karen Kaifa is in Washington with a look at the Fed's latest announcement.
The Federal Reserve skipping a rate hike this month.
Looking ahead, nearly all committee participants view it as likely that some further rate increases will be appropriate this year.
The Fed started increasing its benchmark rate in March 2022, making borrowing more expensive to try to curb spending and inflation. The strategy has been working slowly. Data released by the federal government Tuesday pointed to consumer price inflation easing for the 11th straight month in May. And data released Wednesday by the Labor Department pointed to a deceleration in producer prices.
Basically, what the Fed's doing here is saying that we're moving in the right direction. We're going to take a little bit of a pause. We want to see if this medicine has worked. They're not saying their job is done.
Consumer prices were up 4% year over year, according to the May report. That's twice the Fed's target rate of 2%. And some sectors remain sticky, like housing for both homeowners and renters, and the cost of services like travel and hospitality. Meanwhile, inflation has dented the savings many Americans built during pandemic lockdowns, and some have turned to credit cards and other borrowing. The interest rate pause won't provide too much relief.
Those tend to be variable rates. So even a pause from the Fed means that your rates could be sticking at the highest that we've seen in a while.
The Fed's benchmark rate is at its highest level in almost 16 years. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Today is World Blood Donor Day, and it's a chance to celebrate local people who give the gift of life. The San Diego Blood Bank says donations are desperately needed for surgeries, childbirth complications, traumatic injuries, cancer treatments, and so much more. They say that they need around 300 donors a day to meet hospital needs this year. It's especially difficult to meet that requirement during the summer.
Nationally, there's usually a blood shortage. It's driven by the fact that high schools do not run during the summer, and therefore the mobile blood drives don't run. And throughout the country, that's usually about 50% of the blood supply. That adds a whole nother element when you think about a mom knowing her child's going to need to go in and get blood. We never want that family to have to worry that the blood's going to be on the shelf.
If you donate to the San Diego Blood Bank during the month of June, you'll get a Padres-inspired promotional T-shirt. Well, May Gray and June Gloom, yes, San Diegans are all too familiar with this time of year. The lack of sun is pretty obvious, but KPBS reporter Melissa May tells us about another thing this overcast weather can affect.
If you felt this year's May Gray and June Gloom have been extra gray and gloomy, well, you're right. According to the National Weather Service San Diego, there were 20 days of May Gray. 11 is the average, and June Gloom is in full effect with no clear days so far. Some people are okay with the clouds.
For me, it's perfect, but I know a lot of people want sunshine all the time. I'm cool with it. I'm fine with it.
Some are seeing the bright side.
May Gray and June Gloom here, this still beats 10 feet of snow and negative 20-degree weather, but it's still, we came here for sunny San Diego, and so these last month or two, it's been a little rough for my wife and I after not seeing the sun.
But for some, the weather has a big impact.
Because overall, it makes me sad. It makes me want to sleep in. I don't want to get out of bed, exercise. Although the cooler temperature is nicer to exercise in, it doesn't help my seasonal depression disorders.
According to clinical psychologist Joanna Savarese, symptoms like Lisa Grijalvas's are common and could occur because the weather doesn't match our expectations for this time of year.
When there is a mismatch between what somebody expects and what actually is reality, there could be a sense of loss. And when there is a sense of loss, there tends to be low motivation. You know, you can be tired, don't want to engage in activities you usually will engage in.
Savory says this sense of loss could affect eating and sleeping patterns and mood.
When there is a lack of UVB rays are directly impacted our vitamin D. And when our vitamin D has lower levels, oftentimes that can impact our serotonin and also our dopamine, which play a critical role in our mood.
But there are ways to help those gray and gloomy feelings.
Even though it may be more gloomy, still go to the beach, take a walk your dogs, socialize, get out, be with friends.
Savory says if that's not enough to help, mental health services like psychotherapy or medication are options.
Also, I have a light that I use for at least 30 minutes a day, and under that light helps me out a lot.
During this time of year, Savory encourages people to check in with children and elders about their moods and be alert to changes in behavior. Melissa May, KPBS News.
Boaters, anglers, and campers will once again be able to enjoy the recreation at Lake Oroville. These are satellite images of the reservoir. California's Water Resources Department says the reservoir is once again full just a year after being at half capacity. Runoff from historic rainfall and snowmelt caused the lake level to rebound nearly 100%. In fact, strategic releases are being conducted to ensure that there's room for further runoff.
Thanks, and let's start you off with our weather headlines here. What we're tracking is a few showers and thunderstorms possible, then a warming trend on the way. And then after the warming trend comes cooler temperatures and some pretty gusty winds. So heads up here for some changes over the next couple of days. Looking at tonight's forecast in San Diego County, Oceanside down to 62, San Diego, you drop to 62, Borrego Springs 65, and Mount Laguna down to about 52 degrees. Looking throughout our day on Thursday, seeing the best chance of those thunderstorms more into the mountains down through Fresno. Meanwhile, LA, San Diego, for us, we are looking good as things will be a little bit drier throughout the day tomorrow. Looking at temperatures as we head into our day on Thursday, Oceanside goes up to 73 degrees, San Diego 70 degrees, Borrego Springs 96, Mount Laguna lower 60s, and Chula Vista goes up to about 71. Then as we head into the day Friday, best chance of thunderstorms continues to push farther to the east. Meanwhile, pleasant conditions for California, turning a little bit cooler, though, into Nevada. When we look ahead to your 5-day outlook across the coast, temperatures are going to hold pretty steady into the lower 70s over the next couple of days. Still seeing some low clouds for Thursday and Friday, but then some more sunshine on the way as we head into the weekend and the start of next week. Inland, we're looking at a clearing sky as we head throughout the day on Thursday, 73, and then those rising temperatures, upper 70s on Friday, 80 on Saturday, and then back into the upper 70s for Sunday and Monday. Your 5-day outlook for the mountains does show a bit of a warming trend, low 60s for Thursday and Friday, and then temperatures into the upper 60s by the time we head into Saturday. There's the wind I was talking about Sunday and Monday with temperatures into the lower 60s. And we finish off into the desert for your 5-day outlook as temperatures will hit that 100-degree mark as we head into the day on Saturday, but then notice how things start to drop by Sunday into Monday, and the winds also kick up. For KPBS News, I'm Ariella Scalise.
A new study reveals that juvenile white sharks congregate along Del Mar's beaches, but that it's one of 2 hotspots in Southern California. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Wynn tells us the study also shows how close sharks swim next to people.
Sun, sand, and surf. The beaches of Del Mar are some of the best in the world, and they're popular with swimmers and surfers. And sharks seem to like them too.
I know they're out there.
Ted Zimbelman is a local surfer in Del Mar. He says surfers here don't seem too concerned about it for the most part. But in the past few years, he's noticed an increase in the shark population.
The last few years, I've noticed that there are more. I don't know if that's the case for a fact, but I've noticed them more.
He might not be wrong.
We think the population is increasing.
That's Patrick Rex, a field technician at Cal State Long Beach's Shark Lab. In a 2-year study using drones to track sharks, he found that there are more sharks and they're swimming right next to people.
I thought the sharks would avoid people. What we found, though, is that sharks were right around people. They were using the exact same place.
The study found that juvenile white sharks are concentrated in two areas, South Santa Barbara County and Del Mar. In those two spots, sharks were swimming next to humans around 97% of the days surveyed. In Del Mar, it was closer to 100% of the time. And that's because there are more people in the water there than in Santa Barbara, says Chris Lowe, the Sharks Lab director.
So therefore, the probability of some of the many sharks that we had tagged and were sighting from the drone being in close proximity to a person in Del Mar was much higher than the other site where there were fewer people.
We've always known that the beaches off Del Mar are great white sharks nurseries, so the chances of swimming next to one is pretty high. But what we didn't know was how high and how much the sharks don't seem to care about us.
So I think the thing that will surprise people the most is the fact that sharks are out there all the time, whether you see them or not, but they're not bothering anybody. We're not on the menu, we don't pose a threat, and as a result, they kind of ignore us.
Back in Del Mar, Zimbelman says he does the same with sharks.
Yeah, I ignore them, let them do their thing, and I do my thing, yeah.
That's the tip from the experts. During the entire monitoring period between 2019 and 2021, there were no reports of a shark attack in the surveyed area. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Even if you don't know much about art, you may have seen Nikki de Sable's famous colorful sculptures. Her longtime assistant takes care of them all. But KPBS Arts producer and editor Julia Dixon-Evans says the high cost of repairs and years of vandalism make this job difficult.
Where's the big skull?
French artist Nikki de Sable lived in San Diego toward the end of her life until her death in 2002. Her final work of public art, Queen Califia's Magical Circle, is located in Escondido's Kit Carson Park. There's an abstract mirrored maze and a circle of totems of fantastical creatures, all surrounded by giant serpents.
We call this M&Ms because looks like M&Ms.
Sable died before the work was finished. Like Juretko, Nikki de Sable's longtime assistant helped finish the job, and he continues to take care of her work, stone by stone.
It was a big shock for me, too. If you know a person for so many years, you get close to. But after, you know, lives go on, you have to finish it.
This type of art that Sable created in her later years is vivid and recognizable. Bright, larger-than-life characters and animals, each one mosaiced with intricate details, like small, polished stones.
They are shiny, they are vibrant colors, and as you can see, there's a lot of different colors. I don't think you can buy this right now.
Juretko met Sable in 1994 as a handyman working on her home. She then asked him to help with her mosaic sculptures, and before long, he was traveling with her around the world.
She was the best person. As an artist, you know, sometimes you hear that the artist is ugly or this and that. She was the best person, really. She explained to you, you know, that's why. I mean, and because of her, I learned, let's say, everything what I learned is because of her.
He worked closely with Sable on many of her sculptures, including most local pieces, like the Nikki Gator and Queen Califia. Here they are in a KPBS documentary from 2002.
I love this all these greens and everything. What do you like best, Lek?
I like the pinky one from Madagascar because it comes only from Madagascar. You can have something like this from another country, but not this kind of pinky, not the bright color like this.
Her elaborate construction makes taking care of the sculptures a significant job.
Just clean up and put the replacement stone on.
When a stone falls out, replacement is more like a dental procedure than art. But the cities that own these works of public art can't always provide enough funding for the regular upkeep Juretko thinks is necessary. Queen Califia is often closed to the public, especially after rain. After some vandalism in the sculpture's early years, it was fenced off, surveillance cameras were installed, and hours were limited to a few mornings a week and occasional Saturdays when volunteer docents can be present. And then someone has to do the repairs.
It's always been LEC. It will probably remain LEC.
Danielle Lopez is Assistant Director of Community Services for the City of Escondido. Public art falls under her purview. For repair work, the Nikki Charitable Art Foundation splits the cost. Recently, they repaired a large section to the tune of $56,000.
These tiles are from New Mexico, from Italy, from, it's not like something you can just go to your local tile store and pick up.
Juretco wants the people who hold the purse strings to think about maintenance rather than repairs.
But when you come here, when everything looks disaster and you start from the scratch again, and after 3, 4, 5 years, the same, I mean, how many times you can do this? The ideal solution, it should be maintenance.
There's something intensely personal about Juretco's dedication to the work of Nikki de Sable, his longtime friend and mentor. Julia Dixon-Evans, KPBS News.
And Queen Califia's Magical Circle is open in Escondido from 9 o'clock in the morning until noon on Tuesday and Thursday. It also opens on the 2nd and 4th Saturday of every month. One of the stars of Wave FC will stay in San Diego for years to come. Today, the team announced a contract extension for Naomi Girma through 2026. Her work as a defender has helped lead the Wave to the top of the NWSL standings this season. And she's also expected to play for the U.S. women's national team at the World Cup this summer. And one more reason to celebrate. Today is her 23rd birthday. Happy birthday. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley. And by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.